Hi, welcome back. My name is Margaret Taribo and this is Me with Margaret. What does Me stand for? M stands for motivate, E engage, E educate. So it's about looking at these topics that can impact on our families, our communities, things that we can engage with, that we can challenge, that we can talk about. Today we're talking about things that is something that impacts on everybody all around the world, and it's about the rising cost of living. The cost of living is defined as the monetary cost needed to cover necessary expenses to maintain a certain lifestyle or standard in a particular place or time. Necessary expenses can include housing, food, taxes, healthcare, clothing and education, entertainment and transportation. But this can vary from country to country. In economics, this is usually measured by calculating the average cost of a number of specific goods and services required by a particular group. And the calculations are based on demographics, that is data including population, age, ethnicity, education, and gender background. So when you look at the cost of living, how does it affect the standard of living? It's about the measure of how wealthy or comfortable a people in a geographical location is. And the relationship between the two variables is that where the standard of living is high, then it is highly likely that the cost of living is very high. So why do we think there's a cost of high living in the UK particularly, or all over the world? The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is one primary driver. And it's so real. But there are other variables that have contributed to the perfect storm that has afflicted the UK households in 2022. These include the pandemic, COVID-19, and there's been shortages and general increases in the cost of consumer goods and supply chain bottlenecks precipitated on a high demand for these goods. The cost of living in the UK, according to the data from the UK House of Commons, states this, that the cost of living has been increasing in the UK since early 2021. The annual rate of inflation was the highest it has ever been since 1982. And in July 2022, this has come out and it's been affecting the affordability of goods and services for households. This is the issues we're facing right now. The Big Issue newspaper, that is UK's #1 street paper and on social enterprise, it defines a cost of living crisis as a situation in which the cost of everyday essentials like groceries and bills are rising faster than the average household incomes. See how big it is. So indeed, the health and well-being survey conducted by us as well through what we've been doing in the work found out that 1 in 5 people are struggling to meet the rising cost of living, such as energy bills, petrol and food. So this has been going on. So there's been so much data, so much research. Even though the government in the UK have put in place some palliative measures like subsidized energy bills for pensioners and people with disability, tax rebates, a cut in fuel duty and other such measures, there is still the need to look inwards if we are to survive these times. So I'm not going to tell some of us what we already know, but it's about tightening our purse strings with budget planning, prioritizing and being modest about our spending, seek to have added streams of income, haggling where you can, introduce energy saving measures like turning down your thermostat, switching off your standby, use energy efficient appliances, take shorter showers, turn your heating up when you're not using it, and so much more. But we can go on about that. It's all, we cut your energy, your fuel, how do you use your car? There's so much that people are doing. But mind you, these are about making money stretch further. But what if there's no money to stretch? What if there's not enough money? This is where we have statutory, voluntary and community agency coming together to offer support to the most vulnerable, those on low income households, with housing issues, with immigration issues. There's so much of issues going on. But the conversation is ongoing. and the policies are targeted at protecting the vulnerable. This should be in place, but it is also about everybody else to deal with the economy and the crisis. So if you want to ask me about my take on this issue, there will always be challenges, because if it's not the crisis, there will be something else. If it's not the cost of living, it will be something else. If it's not energy, it will be something else. So we need, and I want to encourage us, it's about developing a strong mindset to deal with these situations. Be brave to make the sacrifices where we can. Be humble enough to seek and ask for support. Be courageous enough to not stop talking about how you feel, because this impacts on our mental health. These are the important things that I want to leave us with, because we can go on and on about the cost of living. We can go on and on about how we need to save money, but we also need to think about our mindset, because our mental well-being is important. So thank you for listening to me today. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time on Me with Margaret.